Is anyone besides me tired of hearing salespeople complain about how much harder sales is than it was 20 years ago? Now, the typical complaints are, the prospect is more educated. They're 67% of the way through the buying cycle. There's a ton of competition out there, and no one's picking up the phone. Well, it's time to apply the emotional intelligence skill of reality testing. And the reality is this. Salespeople have more tools and resources than ever before to be successful in their position, their profession. So let's roll back in time and do some reality checks. Reality check number 1. Back in the good old days, 20 years ago, your major prospecting tool was the yellow pages. Yep, it was true dialing and smiling. And if you could find a company with a display ad, well, that meant they were an A prospect. Today, salespeople have access to the client prospect websites. They can do great research, pre-call planning. They can check the prospect's LinkedIn profile and also check their connections to see if they can gather any more intel. Is sales easier or harder than it was 20 years ago? Reality check number 2. Prospects aren't picking up the phone. Everything is going into voicemail. Well, back in the good old days when selling was easy, your prospects didn't even know you called. They didn't have voicemail. They didn't have email. They didn't know you existed. And I remember more than once driving 3 to 4 hours to drop in on that prospect, to introduce myself, to start building rapport, a relationship, and trust. Is sales easier or harder than it was 20 years ago? So I think you've got my point, but let's look at a couple of other points to do some reality checking on. Your prospects are more educated. So what? So are you. Take advantage of all the great resources out there to make you better in your industry and the selling profession. Your prospects are demanding more. So what? Give them more. You know, our job as a sales professional is to understand the business of business. Take a look at your last 3 to 5 appointments. Did you walk out with the answers to these questions? Do you know your prospect's major initiative for this year? Do you know the macro trends that are affecting their business and how they're handling it? Do you know their competitor activity? Are they getting more aggressive? And do you just even know that old basic question, what's keeping you up at 3 a.m. at night? Now, business acumen is important, but top sales professionals also understand the people side of the business. You can be the smartest guy in the room, and if that prospect doesn't like you, you can't check the likability factor, guess what? They will find a salesperson that hits both the business acumen and the likability. So, is sales easier or harder than it was 20 years ago? I don't know. I'll leave the answer up to you. I'm Colleen Stanley. Thanks for joining me today.